Jenny Bennett, CEO of the Central West Regional Organisation of Councils. Welcome to Digital Dialogue. How are you?
Very well, thank you, sir. How are you?
Well, I'm well. You're one of the few people we've spoken to on this series that actually is not based in Western Sydney. So, I mean, you guys, a bit of backstory for those listening today. Joined up with the dialogue, it would have been sort of middle part of last year or late last year, as a way of sort of bridging the and building the connection between the Central West and Western Sydney. There are some obvious synergies there. Tell us about the Centroc's sort of motivation and drive to want to be better connected into Western Sydney, and what are some of the things that you think can be done to improve the links between the two regions?
So you're so proximal to us, right? It's just a jump over the hill. And yet when you think about how our nation works, it's all still about, or our state works, it's all about CBD in Sydney. But there's so much offering in Western Sydney, and I don't think our people know anywhere near enough about it. And it would make our lives so much easier if we shopped more in Western Sydney, don't have to travel so far, health, education, even tourism experiences. People in our area, we know about the Opera House, right? And the Taronga Zoo and Bondi Beach. We don't know nearly enough about what you can do in Penrith and all the amazing stuff that's going on. There's so much we can do with that proximity. And from our perspective, also, getting freight and all our food and everything into your reach, leveraging the Western Sydney Airport, the connection between inland rail and, in Sydney, how we're going to do that well down the track. There's so much we could be working on. So, yeah, I think there's enormous value in working on that proximity.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the Western Sydney Airport, and that's probably one of the ones that we often hear a lot about in Western Sydney, about how the opportunities, particularly around the fresh produce. I mean, the fact that you guys produce half of the stuff that gets on our table every day. Looking at the links between getting that produce, bringing it into Western Sydney, and getting it on a plane and getting it overseas. The export opportunities and industry opportunities around that sector are really sort of untapped. Outside of that, though, what are some of the sort of the value propositions of Central West? What are the things that you mentioned, tourism, for instance? What are some of the highlights of things that you'd want to be able to bring people back into your region rather than vice versa?
So, especially COVID, right? You can't go overseas at the moment. So we've seen a real resurgence in tourism, just full stop, when people can get out, right? So we did a big campaign last year. We were the first in market, June long weekend. We want you back. We targeted Western Sydney. And we really do want our brothers and sisters and cousins and friends from Western Sydney back in our region to spend time with us. And to some extent, it's also about you visit before you move, right? So you guys are getting packed out down there in Western Sydney. There's plenty of room out here. So come out and live. And it's actually happening, Adam. It's amazing, right?
What would you recommend? I mean, young family, couple of kids. What do we do on a weekend? Where would you recommend?
Oh, wow.
If you had to pick just one. I know
if I had to pick just one place, well, this is going to sound pretty crazy, right? But if it's snowing, I'm going to Snowberon. So if it's really cold, so it's all about the season, right? So you're going to go to Oberon. But I'd actually go and do something really offbeat. I'd go and stay somewhere like Carcoar. Have you ever heard of Carcoar?
I have not. No, tell me a bit about Carcoar.
You need to come to Carcoar, right? It is this little village that the world forgot, and it's just this gorgeous, at the bottom of a valley. It's got a toy museum for the kids. The toy museum is so wacky. You've really got to go to that. You get to go to this fabulous Italian restaurant at night where they just say to you, this is what you're eating. It's fabulous. Eat that,
Right.
And
you're being told this is what you're having.
Yeah. Get just great places to stay. Really fabulous top end places you can shop in. You didn't know we had any of this in Carcoar, did you?
I did not.
Get the kids, go for a ride on the bikes. It's beautiful outdoor. Oh, it's amazing. Pottery. You can walk into the old court there, and like before COVID, you could put a wig on, but you can actually walk into the old courtrooms, and the kids can pretend to be the judge and the prisoners and all that sort of stuff. It's a lot of fun. Tiny town, beautiful, outdoor, fresh air, everything.
Any opportunity to lock the kids up, I'm all for. So that's that alone sounds enticing. In order to get the people from Western Sydney to Carcoar and Carcoar to Western Sydney, there obviously needs to be some pretty efficient connectivity, and we've spoken a bit about improving the connections, not just the social and economic connections, but the transport connectivity. What are some of the key things that need to happen to improve the efficiency and mobility between the two areas?
Well, the first thing I'm going to say to you, Adam, is don't just come for the weekend, right? Because if you're going to come up from the western side of our region heading back into Sydney, it's just terrible traffic because, it's so popular here at the moment during COVID. So I'm going to ask you to come one day early and stay an extra day, right?
Yeah.
And so then you don't just get to go to Carcoar, you're going to get to go to a couple of places, right? So you can go and experience a few places, but you're going to miss out on that really rubbish traffic and congestion that's happening as we speak now. And in the longer term, we're going to have tunnels and stuff like that that are happening on the Great Western Highway as we speak. That's going to take quite a while.
Yeah.
Down the track, we really have to have a safe, swift link. We don't care where it's going to go. It could be a tunnel, it could be along the Bells Line escarpment, it could be a Great Western Highway. We don't really care where it is, but you've got to have a safe, swift link suitable for freight at 100 kilometres an hour plus between our region and Western Sydney. You've got to connect those two wests in a safe, swift manner.
I think you're spot on there. Just in wrapping up, you've talked about how the regions, particularly in the Central West, are keeping their eye on things in Sydney at the moment, and obviously feel a level of empathy towards our situation. What can putting the shoe on the other foot? What can Western Sydney do for the Central West outside of that sort of tourism offering? What do we need to be doing to build that connection, support and promote some of those economic opportunities? What are the things that, if you had your top 3 wish list, what can Western Sydney do for the Central West?
Well, the first thing is that safe swift link for us. We definitely need that safe swift link between the two wests. That's probably our number one. After that, just everything that happens in New South Wales at the moment is very centralist, right? It all comes from the middle. I mean, you guys, Western Sydney, you miss out because it's all about the centre of Sydney, right? So that problem is just magnified for us once you start going over the hill. So everything that happens has very much got a metro focus. So starting to help everybody in Sydney, especially the people, the power brokers, to think more about regional equity for our people in health, education, whatever it is. I think that's the next thing. That will be the next important thing. It's just that thing. It's just that thing about equity for rural people. I think it's really only those two things I would say at the moment. Is that infrastructure connection would be fabulous, but the next thing is just thinking about making sure that we get the same access to health, all those, and just thinking about your rural cousins, your cousins in our area, and hoping that together we can get the same levels of service and infrastructure support and those things. Tourism spending, it doesn't matter what it is, it's all metro focused, my friend. And we do really miss out, and it's such a shame.
Yeah, I think that equity argument is one that the Dialogue in Western Sydney's been prosecuting for a while, so we know it well. And like you're saying, I think it's even more amplified in the bush. So hopefully we can continue to work together to try and reinforce some of those messages and those opportunities that are happening regionally. Jenny, Bennett, thank you for your time this afternoon. Thank you for your support with the Dialogue, and stay safe, and we'll hopefully talk soon.
Same to you, Adam. Best of luck.